After listening to Priya's words, Vedant, who was standing outside the room, was laughing a lot. He controlled his laughter and said, "You can't fool me. Your lips like cherries, pink cheeks like Kashmiri apples, prove that you have a lot of blood inside. Now I am coming in by opening the door with the other key." After listening to Vedant, Priya's hands and legs began to tremble. She started looking for a place to hide here and there while chewing her nails. Then she heard the sound of the gate lock opening. She quickly took off her blanket and hid near the bed in the corner. She was consoling all her deities inside. She prayed in front of all the deities she remembered. Then she heard the sound of someone's footsteps coming to her. She closed her eyes with fear. She was shivering so much that Vedant could see her shivering from the outside. Vedant came to her and sat next to her with the strength of his claws. Then he slowly scratched the blanket over her. Priya closed her eyes and was remembering God. Vedant rubbed his fingers on her cheeks and said, "Baby, get ready to quench my thirst." Priya was shivering with fear. She said while shivering, "No, please let me go." Vedant held her head from behind and said while slowly bending towards her neck, "What will happen to me if I leave you?" Priya started crying very loudly out of fear and said while crying, "Please don't drink my blood. I don't want to die. Don't kill me. I want to go home. I want to go to my mom." Seeing Priya crying like a child, Vedant was having a hard time controlling his laughter. He started laughing loudly and sat next to her laughing. "You are really a drama queen," Vedant said while laughing. Seeing Vedant laughing, Priya realized that Vedant was doing all this to trouble her. She pushed him with anger and sat on him and said while hitting him, "I won't leave you. How dare you trouble me? Do you know how scared I was? If you trouble me like this again, I will drink your blood." But Vedant didn't care about anything. He said while laughing, "Yes, after becoming my wife, you have to drink my blood all your life." After saying this, Vedant turned to Priya, controlled his laughter and said while looking into her eyes, "I didn't know that you are such an idiot that you won't understand my joke. By the way, really you girls have no brains." Priya looked at him with anger and said, "If a psycho like you falls behind him, even a good girl will go crazy. Now move." Saying this, Priya pushed him from above. But Vedant didn't even move from him. He kissed Priya's wet eyes with Priya's tears. And then he touched her cheeks. Then he kissed her neck and said, "By the way, you are very naughty. I feel like eating you up." Saying this, he bit Priya's neck lightly. Then Vedant's phone started ringing. Vedant got up from Priya and received the phone. After talking for some time, he put the phone back in his pocket and said, "Let's go, the car has arrived." Saying this, he held Priya's hand and came out of the room. While waiting for Ranvir, Mahi fell asleep. As soon as the morning light fell on Mahi's face, Mahi fell asleep and then slowly opened her eyes. Then she realized that Ranvir didn't come home all night. Seeing this, she asked herself, didn't Ranvir come home all night? After all, where is he? Now she was angry at Ranvir. She didn't call him yesterday, nor did she tell him where Ranvir is right now. Then she thought, did Ranvir message him? Thinking this, she quickly checked her phone. And she was right. Ranvir's message was in his inbox. Which maybe he did in the middle of the night. Mahi quickly opened the message. "Sweetheart, I am going out of the country. And I will be back in 2 days. I have to go for some important work. See you soon. Love you." After reading the message, Mahi got angry. She said to herself, "What is this? Couldn't you have told me yesterday? Every time you leave without telling me. Let me come. Now I am not going to talk." Then Mahi also messaged Ranvir. And went to the washroom. Mahi's exams were going on. That's why she used to study till late night. Mahi quickly had her breakfast and went to college with Ruhi. Today Vedant dropped both of them to college. And he left his office from there. After reaching college, Ruhi went to her class. And Mahi went ahead for her class. Mahi was going towards her class when someone called her from behind. "Hello Mahi, how are you?" Ankit, who was standing behind, said. Mahi looked back and said with a small smile, "I am fine, Ankit." Saying this, she turned to go back. But Ankit came to her quickly and said while walking with her, "Mahi, today is your exam, right? Best of luck for that." Mahi smiled and said, "Thanks." Mahi didn't want to talk to him much, because she knew Ranbir's warning very well. Although Ranbir was not here at that time, but she was very scared of Ranbir's anger. That's why she wanted to stay away from any boy. But Ankit didn't want to leave her. He again tried to talk to Mahi. "Mahi, now the exam is about to start. So why don't we sit somewhere and talk? Let's go to the canteen." Saying this, she held Mahi's hand. Mahi looked at her hand, and then looked at Ankit, who was smiling at her. Mahi said, "Ankit, it would be better if you stay away from me. Otherwise, it may not be good for you." Saying this, Mahi went to her classroom. Seeing Mahi leaving, Ankit's face had a sad smile. On the other side, a private jet landed at the airport in Italy. After a while, the door of the jet opened and 4 people wearing black suits came out. All of them had black goggles on their eyes and Bluetooth in their ears. Everyone came down and stood in a line. After a while, Ranbir came out of the jet. Behind him, Shirin was standing in black clothes. Ranbir was wearing a navy suit and a white shirt. Due to the 2 buttons on the top of the shirt, his muscular chest was visible, which made him look very dashing. He put his goggles on his eyes in style and came down the stairs. There were about 10 black cars standing there. The car standing in the middle was bigger and more luxurious. A handsome boy was standing outside the car, whose name was Daniel. Daniel was the one who used to handle all of Ranbir's work in Italy, and Ranbir was a very trustworthy man. With this, the relationship between the two was also very frank. He came to Ranbir and hugged him and said, "Welcome, friend." Ranbir looked at him and gave him a cold look and said, "Did you forget, Daniel, that I am your boss?" Hearing Ranbir's words, Daniel's face went down. So Ranbir laughed and punched his stomach and said, "But first you are my friend, Daniel." As soon as Ranbir did this, Daniel grabbed his stomach and said, "Ouch. But who hits his friend like this, Ranbir?" Ranbir said, "I hit him, right? Now let's go." Saying this, the two got into the car. After a while, all the cars left from there at speed. In a big villa, Ranbir and Daniel were drinking wine sitting on the sofa. Daniel took a sip of this drink and said, "Ranbir, are you married?" Ranbir first smoked a cigarette and said with a sigh, Get married." Daniel looked at him and said, "How is my sister-in-law? By the way, there must be something special in her," on which Ranbir the devil lost his heart. Hearing Daniel, Ranbir took a long sip of the cigarette and stood up by extinguishing the cigarette in the ashtray. Then he stood up in front of a glass door and put one hand on it and closed his eyes. One by one, all the meetings with Mahi began to pass in front of his eyes like a seam, because of which a lovely smile came on his lips. Ranbir turned around and said to Daniel, "He himself is very special. At first glance, he entered my heart, and when the heartbeat of my heart stopped, I did not even know. Mahi is the perfect combination of gentleness and innocence." Hearing Ranbir, Daniel smiled and put his glass on the table and said, "After all, a devil fell in love with an angel." Ranbir smiled at Daniel's words and then sat on the sofa and said, "Did you do what I asked you to do?" Saying this, Ranbir's facial expressions became serious. Daniel also said, being serious, "Yes, Michelle has kept a party today. We will meet her there, because she is also invited there." Hearing Daniel's words, a smile came on Ranbir's lips. Here in Indore, it was evening time. Mahi had set up the whole panchayat on the rooftop, where Rudra, Sarika, Ruhi, Priya, Tina and Vedant were sitting. And Mahi was circling from here to there. Anger was clearly flowing on her face. Vedant and Rudra were looking at something in their phones, while Sarika, Tina, Ruhi and Priya were looking at Mahi going from here to there. Without saying anything to Mahi, Ruhi started circling like this. Ruhi got irritated and said, "Will you say something now? Or have you called us to show your ramp walk?" Hearing Ruhi's words, everyone started laughing. Mahi looked at Ruhi and said, "You just sit quietly, Ruhi, otherwise all the anger will come on you." Hearing this, Ruhi thought it was better to stay quiet. And slowly sat close to Vedant and said, "Brother, why is this angry bird circling around today?" Vedant controlled his laughter and said, "Keep quiet now, otherwise this angry bird will attack us all." Ruhi asked Mahi lovingly, "Mahi, till you don't tell us what the problem is, how will we get rid of it?" Mahi looked at everyone and said, "It's all because of Ranvir. Yesterday he went out of the country without telling me. He did the same before. I always tell him before going, whether I go to college or shopping. I don't even know where he has gone, in which country he has gone. He just messaged me in the middle of the night that I am going out of the country for an important work." Hearing Mahi's words, Vedant looked at Rudra, asking him what to say to Mahi to calm him down. Because he couldn't tell her the truth that Ranvir has gone to mess with someone. Now how will everyone calm Mahi's anger? Will Mahi get angry with Ranvir? Why is Ankit trying to get close to Mahi? To know more, keep listening to Oh Baby only on Love Pulse Diaries.